how do we understand that source? How do we understand that spark? That how do we understand creation itself? I don't know if I'm able to explain that to you, but when you get out of the constraints of that reality, you understand that there's many constraints and many real like we are within the constraints of 100 walls. For this one mechanism to be able to work properly within the constraints of this one wall, you have to have another constraint, another set of walls, and then for this one to work, you have the way you were saying it. It needs to be within a certain set of like uh, um rules. You
Well,
know,
I hear you, and I understand that,
it's
like, even in this metaphor.
it was even confusing to me.
So
Sorry, man.
it's all good.
Thanks for
So
going along.
I will gladly go along on this ride. But so to me, what you're saying is as follows: like, if we don't have the ability to look at something from a farther perspective, we might never really understand what we have right now. The same way that if you
Farther
can't get out
or
of the engine,
closer?
but closer will give you more information, and it depends on how, what would be, what what are the limitations of going closer. Like, would you hit like a metaphorical wall that, oh, I for some reason I can't go closer than what I'm going right now, it's the deepest I can go at whatever level. Would it be like, for example, take a microscope, how tiny can you see? That's how close you can go. Oh, you can only see so much until, let's say, the wavelength of visible light, and then you have to change the little bit the system in which you're going to try to observe things, and then you're going to go deeper, and then there's, for whatever reason, let's just say for the sake of argument, that there's a barrier and you can't go deeper, so you'll never be able to understand that another deeper level and how that might affect the top levels.
Right.
And the same way, if there's a max that you can pull out as far as perspective, you might never really see the whole thing and never understand.
But you don't think we're
um,
surpassing those barriers? Sorry.
I mean,
Like
if you
certain
look,
barriers that we believed,
yeah,
that we
all the
perceived as
time,
barriers,
all the time,
we were able to
yeah.
surpass that
But we can only
by
make,
understanding the mechanisms better,
for
or
sure.
even like having better ways of looking at it, or better ways of
I was just phrasing
w-
your argument back to you, so
okay.
in the hopes that I try to understand a little bit better, and you correct me if I'm mistaken. Like, all that you just said is true. Like, you have better microscopes, you have better telescopes, and that's how we will look inwards and outwards as the world and as the universe as we understand it. But I do understand in the philosophical sense, if you can't you can only pull the lens so much, you might miss the whole big picture
All right.
altogether, and never really understand how the things um, end up.
Manifest.
They might make sense in a different approach. What I was gonna say to that, all of that, is that, well, what are the tools that we have that are kind of, a little bit of a in our I understand that our limited way of exploring the nature of reality
Mm-hmm.
might not ever give us the full picture. You know,
Yeah.
that is that's the game. We it is what it is. There's not much we can do about it. If by definition you can't know these things, and then I think observation can only take you so far. But for me,
Do you think that could be perceived as a divine impediment or a
n-
blockage,
every
because
for me,
we
that
as
all of
human
that,
beings are doomed to live within the constraints of this
maybe,
material world, and we're never going to be able to surpass or understand the divine until we are spiritually
maybe.
allowed. Hmm.
But for the sake of argument, for the sake of objective argument, all of these things need to become observed. Everything else is a jump. It's a leap of logic. It's a leap of faith.
Faith.
Exactly. So, and that's where objectivity, by definition, separates itself from faith, because faith is believing something without evidence. By definition, as soon as you have
So that
evidence,
I mean,
it
well,
stops becoming faith.
I'm
You understand this? This
yeah,
is
but and isn't that the definition of the scientific process, or like science itself?
the first part, the
Y-
faith part. Not really.
You gotta have
It's
faith. I mean,
no, 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 no. let's separate the waters here because this is very important. Like literally, as soon as you have evidence to back something up and with certainty, you stop having faith, right? Because faith requires unknowing, the being oblivious to something,
Okay.
right? And that's why in Portugal you say
So
mystery of the faith, because you can't really connect the two dots. It just sort of happened. Why? I don't know. This mystery of the faith, literally
so
the definition.
do you think
So,
science is the antagonist to religion?
well, a lot of scientific folk have been religious. You
Right.
know, they found a way to make it work. For me, it was hard to equate, you know, religious stories, religious allegories
Yeah.
to the actual reality that's been shown to be more accurate. And I felt there was a big disconnect, and that's why I kind of chose a side with more of the objective way to approach understanding the world and the universe. But I'm not by any means imposing that this should be what everybody else should believe.
Right. So
Um,
you feel like you have a more nihilistic view of reality or
Possibly,
existence?
possibly,
Doesn't that
but
bother you a little
it's
bit?
no,
No.
because I'm at peace with those ideas. I think even Carl Sagan, uh, he said something along the lines of, I'm comfortable with this being it. I'm happy that I was conscious for a brief moment and I got to experience this, and he got to love his wife, and he's okay in returning to quote unquote nothingness and stop existing
Right.
in the sense that you are no longer your consciousness. Where does it go? I feel like a lot of these faith based systems, because by definition through the lack of evidence, they seek to explain and give comfort to the scary unknown. Like if I'm telling you that it's much nicer to believe that there's a reincarnation or life after death or this or that or the other, that gives you comfort at all aspects of life, as that you're not walking alone, that there is a reason for your condition right now, because maybe there's a kind of delayed gratification. You're suffering today, but there's a day where it will come that we will suffer no more and everything will be bliss. A lot of these theological myths really, I'm not going to use the word, but I'm going to use like sell you the concept of paradise, sell you the concept of hell, like eternity in a different form of existence. That so this is only a test, this is only a
So
passing, right? But if you tell you, oh, this is it, and I'm saying, oh, well, my life sucks, how are you going to deal with that? It's going to be very complicated emotionally.
well, you're a smart guy, my man.
I am.
Yep. Well, if you
Am
if
I?
you
I mean, not I am. Sorry, cut that.
it's
Am I really?
I feel like when you view the world in an existence in a more nihilistic from a more nihilistic point of view, um, perspective, I would say it makes it harder for you to take on suffering and take on the downfalls, because if you don't understand that there's something about this life and something about existence that transcends at some point into something that has more meaning than simply existing, or something that is random, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then how do you cope with the idea of suffering?
Right.
Or how do you keep your moral stances throughout your life if you don't have a higher power, or if you don't have something that is above you to respond to, answer to, let's say?
Mm-hmm.
How do you cope with that?
Well, everybody has their own answer, I think.